Philip is very adamant about doing something going forward and has some recommendations in reference to our county, but it's still status quo, nothing has changed since you were on the board previously. It's still in a holding pattern in reference to that. So we haven't given any of the hotel tax to them in reference to the business bureau.
This budget doesn't reflect the new front-end loader that was purchased?
No,
Okay, so it hasn't hit yet?
no. And in regards to the hotel and motel, I only have, you have it in your packet, I only have the revenues and expenditures that were budgeted, but I don't have a complete balance because I was not prepared for that question.
You basically just show the balance for this year, correct?
The only thing that it shows is what was allowed to be budgeted. And also, even though it is allowed to be budgeted, it's not allowed to be spent. So we haven't done, as you can see, there's no expenditures in there. There's revenues, but there's no expenditures.
Will we be giving any to the 4A for projects?
I can look into them. I don't know, I need to review more what the circumstances are for these hotel and motel tax. And as a matter of fact, what I've been doing since I started working here is I'm reviewing all the revenues, everything, from fees, permits, water rates. Now I'm gonna go into the sales tax, make sure that we're collecting the correct amounts, that they're reporting what they need to be reporting, and also the motel and hotel tax. So I'm slowly but surely getting to that point to where I'm gonna be able to review all of them. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, now we're going to go on to item 4, new business B, consideration and action to cancel regular council meeting previously scheduled on May 22nd, 2014.
Mayor, due to the fact that we posted the meeting, if you could actually vote to table that, it's not necessarily at this time.
Does it need to be tabled? You just dismiss it, or you can't dismiss it?
We need to act on it, since you've got one posted for Thursday, I think it'd be appropriate to table it.
Is it posted as a special meeting?
Yes.
It is.
Okay, so it should be,
And actually, the fact that it's regular or special is probably not significantly meaningful the way we do our meetings, but I would think it'd be appropriate to cancel the meeting, not cancel, table, would be posted as different meeting.
okay. That makes sense.
Okay, I make a motion to table item 4B to cancel
As posted.
as posted.
We have a motion, may I have a second? We have a motion by Councilman Nieto, second by Councilman Morones, all in favor?
Right.
All opposed? Motion carries 5-0.
Unless you don't want to have the meeting.
Okay. Now we're going to go on to item 4C, consideration and action to receive update on the grievance filed by the Floresville Police Officers Association, FPOA, under the current collective bargaining agreement, and to approve the terms of settlement if agreed to by the FPOA. Mr. President.
You representing the chief tonight, so I'm going to give this to you. Okay, let me see if I can sort of follow the bouncing ball in this memo. It's probably going to be cleaner and simpler if I can just kind of read it through with you. This is a settlement agreement that's been reached with the benefit of some significant help from the controller in reviewing past payments, and from the manager, and from the chief, and actually from the current president of the bargaining unit. Item 1, this is regarding the grievance filed by the Floresville Police Officers Association concerning step increases. And the step increases, if I can put this to you simply, the way we practiced this in the past, starting with Gary Pellick in 2009 and since, is while somebody might reach a step increase within a calendar, or excuse me, within a fiscal year, we didn't recognize that step increase into the beginning of the subsequent year. That's essential to understand what's going on here, okay? So what we were doing is, if you got, and I use the hyperlink here, if you got a step increase where the new budget starts in October, and you got a step increase in November, we didn't recognize that obligation to pay for that until the following September 30th or October 1st. Am I making myself clear? Somewhat? So step increases were not recognized at the time they took place, but recognized at the beginning of the following fiscal year. So here's what I've said here. The city's current practice is that if an individual is eligible for a step increase after the start of the fiscal year, it will not take effect until the following year, and that's the following budget year for purposes. So for example, in fiscal year 214 started October 1st, 2013, if the officer was entitled to the step increase on October 2nd, their raise would not actually take effect until October 1st, 2014, a whole year later. The FPOA brought the grievance to our attention, contending it was unjust because the officers were not being paid or compensated for their earned step increases, and the claimed officer back pay for FY 2012-13 was a total amount of $5,161.20. The back pay for 2013-14 was in the amount of $2,071.20. Total damages were claimed at $7,232.40. On May 15th, we met with Mr. Leonard, the attorney for the SPOA, to discuss the upcoming arbitration, which is scheduled for the 23rd, regarding the grievance filed under the procedures contained in the collective bargaining agreement. At that meeting, and I'm trying to give this to you just straight on, we raised the issue of the 30-day limitation period imposed in the collective bargaining agreement in Article 18 concerning the filing of grievances. And to put that to you simply, by contract, the grievance had to be raised within 30 days of the event. So if somebody had missed a year, or missed longer than a year, or missed 33 days filing the grievance, they were barred from presenting the grievance. And so when we got together with Mr. Leonard, we raised that issue, Robert Leonard, and we went through the matter back and forth. And after we did this, we analyzed who was entitled, and this was what Ms. Moreno helped with. And if you look at the top of page 2, the 3 officers that were timely were Daria Fowler, Billy Mitchell, and Billy Aletta. And these individuals would collectively have been entitled to $2,071.20 in addition to the regular compensation through the end of the month. Okay, and each pay is broken down on the attachment to this memorandum. You'll see the officers and the proposed rates. So in order to provide adequate compensation to officers when they reach their step increases, and this was the basis for our compromise, and provide adequate notice for personnel budgeting for the Police Department during the city's budget cycle, we propose that the following addition as Article 11 to Section 6 of the CBA read as follows. And this is what I'm asking for your approval to tonight, since the police have approved this. It is prior to the last day of June of each calendar year, in accordance with the city's budget cycle, The association shall provide to the city at least a list of those officers who shall be entitled to a raise or promotion in the upcoming fiscal year due to their tenure with the Floresville Police Department. If such information is not provided to the city, any increases in salary associated with such time and grade standards shall not take effect until the start of the fiscal year following the date the salary increase was to take effect. In addition, the association shall be responsible for reporting any changes in the officer's education, parentheses, as set forth in Article 11, Section 2, parentheses, licensing as set forth in Article 11, Section 4, or an assignment as set forth in Article 11, Section 5, to the city. Upon receipt of the notice from the association, the city shall be responsible for amending the personnel budget subject to the availability of city funds to account for such changes in salary in the next regularly scheduled city council meeting. End of quote. Number 6, in order to settle the matter and allow the city and FPOA to move forward as partners, the following terms of settlement were proposed and accepted by the FPOA last Friday to avoid an arbitration set for this upcoming Friday, the 23rd. A, payment of the $2,071.20 to the officers listed in paragraph 4 above. B, a budget amendment to the FPD's 2013-14 personnel budget to include step increases for the above-mentioned 3 officers as well as any other officers who are set to receive such step increases later in the fiscal year. And C, adoption of the CBA amendment that I just read as set forth in paragraph 5 to account for personnel budget adjustments in the 2014-2015 period, which is the last year of the current CBA. And basically, what we tried to do is evaluate the cost of the arbitration, evaluate the cost of professional fees for my office, evaluate the cost that if we lost any of this, we'd be paying all of Mr. Leonard's fees, and settle the matter. And that's what we did last Thursday, and on Friday, this was taken to the Police Officers Association pursuant to the CBA, and the agreement that I just went through was approved by the police officers, approved by the parties involved, and we're here simply asking that the city approve its side of the bargain. And thank you very much, Mr. Moreno, for going back and rechecking the figures because we were slightly off on a couple numbers. So basically what we're trying to do for you is save about $20,000, which is my guesstimate of the cost of the arbitration. We had an arbitrator pursuant to the agreement coming down here from Dallas. He would have spent a whole day with us. And we also had his travel and expense for being here overnight. Plus the fact that for the amount of money involved, we spent a lot of time arguing about it. And if you look at the way this thing washed out at the top with the A, B, and C, those 3 were timely. Those 3 were going to make a recovery on attorney's fees over and against us. And pursuant to the CBA, the practical thing to do was to resolve the matter. And so that's what this proposal is, and that's why I'm recommending its approval. And the police are happy with it, particularly with the amendment, and you don't have to face this problem in the future. But the amendment takes your approval tonight to accept the language we propose. And my recommendation is your adoption of the memorandum, and particularly the language in paragraph 5 that appears in quotes as an addition to the CBA. Questions?
Does the budget amendment have to be in an ordinance form?
It does, and I found out this evening, Madam Mayor, that at this point, we have money in the budget that does not require a budget amendment for the police department's personnel salary line item. So we're inside the budget, but I wrote the memo in a way contemplating that we would have a budget amendment. But Connie informs me that as of today, we don't need a budget amendment. We can ride forward on this. Is that correct?
Yeah.
But I was contemplating an amendment, yes. To answer your question. And I know the manager has authority to move money, but the point was I wanted you to know that what account it was going to come from, if it had to come from another account.
but she advised me today that that's not necessary, that there is money in the police salary line item for this purpose. So the motion I would recommend is to accept the memorandum as the FPOA has, and to adopt as part of the agreement, the language amending the CBA. And I'm here to answer questions. It's really not as complicated as my memo, there's just a lot of detail here.
So basically what you're saying is we don't need a budget amendment because the money's already in that item.
In that line item.
Yeah, the reason why we have that is because, he's a detective, right? Sharon, Lawrence, he's no longer employed with us, so whatever, and the amount is not, already, big, it's only $2,000. So with whatever that we're not paying these, one officer, we can cover these fees, and we will not need a budget amendment.
Okay, so basically you're just informing us, so we really don't have to take a vote on it.
On the budget part. The rest of it, I need your vote on to amend the CBA and approve the settlement.
So on the motion, you need anything? I mean, I know you mentioned item 5. Does anything have to be said verbatim from item 5?
Well, that's our agreement with the FPA, the CBA folks. If we want to change it tonight, if your pleasure is to change the language, we've got to go back to them.
And Joe, can they give us something in writing that they've accepted this agreement that we have, just so we can have something in file for the record?
I've done 2 confirming letters to Mr. Leonard, but I don't have anything from him. And I did furnish him a copy of this memo today to make sure that this was in accord with our agreement. And I didn't get anything back saying don't do it. And I think you got copied last Friday on a copy of a letter to the arbitrator. And that letter to the arbitrator was to try and keep the arbitrator from spending anything to come down here and to avoid all of those expenses. And that letter was copied to Mr. Leonard after the Police Officers Association approved the matter. So to answer your question directly, I don't have anything that I can hand you tonight, but Mr. Leonard did call and say yes, and the arbitrator did write us a letter back commending us for settling it. And all indications to me were from the chief that the association had accepted the matter. And if I'm in error, somebody tell me that this is a small community, and I know if I'm in error, I would have heard by now.
Is it something hard to get for them just to give us a little paragraph or something, just to put it?
I think it would be more suitable for us to approve something that has, that we can visually see that there was, that there was a commitment made between the 2 entities.
If it would please you, we could pick this up at another council meeting, but I know it was approved, or I wouldn't be standing here asking you to approve it, but if you would like to defer it.
Well, you haven't seen anything either, so.
No, I haven't.
So that kind of makes it up in the air in the cloud. So can we approve it with the exception of?
Something in writing that
Of
says
the
they
agreement.
accepted it? Yes.
And no check to be issued until that point?
Yeah, that's fine, man. I have no problem with that. I think that's
Yeah,
true.
something, approval pursuant to a written agreement.
A written confirmation that it's been approved, and we'll then we'll issue the check, and then we'll issue the amended agreement.
I would like just to, for that to be, dispersed throughout the council as well, for us to receive that letter.
I think that's totally appropriate, sir.
Okay.
I agree with that, and we concur with that as a part of the recommendation.
Okay, with that, can I have a motion? Eric, you want to read it?
I said, you just didn't hear me.
Mayor, I'll make the motion.
Okay.
I move to accept the memorandum dated May the 20th, 2014, regarding the settlement agreement reached amending CBA dispute with a future letter stating that this was completed and funds not being allocated until it is done.
condition on receipt of such a letter. I understand.
Okay, I have a motion by Councilwoman Castillo. May I have a second?
Second motion.
Okay, do you want to be second?
I'll second.
I never can be second.
I have a motion by Councilwoman Castillo, second by Councilman Guerrero. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries 5-0. I hereby adjourn this meeting 8:10.